So first, what is blockchain? Let's watch a video to have an overview.
Let's suppose that you're writing a really important email to a colleague.
Blockchain is peer-to-peer software technology that protects the integrity of a digital piece of information. It was invented to create the alternative currency Bitcoin, but may be used for other cryptocurrencies, online signature services, voting systems, and many other applications. In this video, we explain how it works and what makes it special. Everyone uses paper money. When you get a $10 bill, you trust that it's not fake. If instead someone sent you an email saying, "Here's $10, you probably wouldn't trust it. But when we transfer money, use an ATM, or pay with a deposit card, that's pretty much exactly what we do. We're sending money and a digital message. To make sure no one's cheating or sending money they don't have, these messages go through a few trusted banks that keep a record of everything. They know how much money everyone has and deduct it properly for every transaction. But this becomes expensive when there's a million transactions around the world every minute. The Economist estimates that banks charged us more than $1.7 trillion to process these payments in 2014. That's about 2% of the entire world economy. With blockchain, we can save a lot of this cost because it lets us send money just like sending an email. Instead of sending a lot of payment information through a few servers, blockchain uses thousands of personal computers on the internet. All transactions are copied and cross-checked between every computer in a system-wide accounting book called the ledger, which becomes very safe at scale. Blockchain doesn't just allow us to create safe money online, it lets us protect any piece of digital information. This could be online identity cards, voter ballots, contracts, and many other legal instruments, bringing bureaucracy into the 21st century.
Okay, so here is the definition of blockchain. A blockchain is a ledger of facts. So now you guys are very familiar with ledger, right? So I don't need to explain it. Replicated across several computers assembled in a peer-to-peer network. So here, peer-to-peer network means all transactions will be recorded and processed without a third-party provider, which usually a bank. And members of the network are anonymous individuals called nodes. And okay, for this picture, you can better understand the definition. Here, each circle stands for a transaction, and after validation, it will form a block. Then the block will be added to the existing chain. So now you can understand where the blockchain comes from. So now let's see some history about blockchain. So blockchain was invented by that person, and actually it's not his real name. And it was created in 2008 for a project called Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a kind of currency which is neither physical nor digital. It's just entries in the blockchain ledger. So to underpin the Bitcoin, a new electronic cash system that's fully peer-to-peer with no trusted third party was invented, and that's blockchain. And next, here's the difference between blockchain and a bank's ledger. Firstly, the blockchain is public and distributed very widely. Anyone is allowed to copy it. And the second one is more secure compared with the bank ledger because it's very hard to change. The only way to change it is to simultaneously overwrite all copies. So it's almost impossible. Here you can see even if there's no authority institution like a bank participate, people do not need to worry about this security. through this picture, you can see, first, someone needs to request a transaction. Then the requested transaction is broadcast to a P2P network consisting of computers. Each computer is called a node. Then the network of nodes validates the transaction. And here you can see after validation, that transaction combined with other transactions will form a block. Then the new formed block will be added to the existing chain. That's it. So, okay, after overall process, let's focus on two phases that is, important and critical to the whole process. The first one is block. Here is the how the facts and transactions form a block. Here you can see at first all facts are pending and unconfirmed. Then after validation, the facts will be grouped into several blocks. And also here you can see there is only a single chain of the blocks. So let's say if fact F is in block 21 and fact E is in block 22, then the fact E is considered by the entire network to be posterior to the fact F. So there is a timeline. And the second phase is mining. So this phase shows how after the block has been created, then how will each block added into the whole existing chain. Here you can see this three nodes all have the same block. So the three one is competing to add their local block into the network. So how will they do it? They just rolling a dice. Who first got the double six will get their block be confirmed, and then these blocks will be added to the network. But before it, each block will be sent to the other nodes, and so that they will be checked whether it is right and added to their own copy of the network. Then they will try to create a new block with pending facts. So here is how the process begins and ends. So here is some basic knowledge about the blockchain.
Okay. So next one, I'm gonna introduce what kind of types of a blockchain we can see in so far. We can divide by like 3 categories. The first one is public blockchain. Public blockchain is everybody can download, everybody can access, but this is some kind of open to public, and you can download to your computer, your own device. So everybody can share the information and share the old transaction, and everything will be recorded under the network. And for the federated, it's like between the public and private. Federated blockchain is like you just owned by a group of people. They have a second limited access to some kind of people, so it's not open to the public, but sometimes owned by small groups like a banking area, banking sectors. And private blockchains, like a company owned internationally, they are just like auditing like information owned by a company. They have their own network, so they control everything. They have their group to validate all the transactions. So this is separated from these 3 categories. And next chart, I will show you what's the difference between these 3, actually divided by 2 right now, because private combined with the federated. So the public like open, read, and write. Everybody can access, can download, but the speed is slower. And compared with private, it's faster. And the security is proof of one is private, it's like a pre-approved participants. So it's just limited to small groups. And identities, anonymous. So this one's kind of no identities. Assets like the native asset, that one's a new asset. So Bitcoin is going to the public. So private's like just inside the company, like right now, every big four accounting firm, they try to process all the blockchain technology into their network. So next one, I will show you. Okay. I will show you 5+ blockchain real-world use cases. Here are they mostly like the government identification, mobile payment, insurance, real estate, healthcare, or supply chain, and especially you can see it's like a diamond, like a diamond. Diamond, they can track all the supply chain where to find out the beers. The diamonds, that's using blockchain to track all the importation and the sales of the diamonds. Okay, then we can control the resource. And right now, I just try to list it like 3 categories that have a big impact to apply blockchain to their industry. Government, you can see the government. Right now, the World Economic Forum anticipates like 10% of the global GDP. There will be a store on the blockchain by 2025. And in other countries, the Finland, they try to use like Essential, it's a company to develop like the e-government pilot, and with agriculture, some kind of producers and forest owners. And of course, we can make it use data for the education, or public records, and national security and voting. For the healthcare, for the hospital and clinic, we have a lot of tons of medical records. So use blockchain, you can store a lot of information, and it's easy to secure all the data. In healthcare, project such medical record using blockchain as a means of facilitating data sharing or providing us authentication and maintaining the confidentiality. And the third industry I try to provide the supply chain. It's ideal for the industry where goods are passed through various pairs of hands. So like IBM and Walmart have teamed up to launch a blockchain food safety alliance in China with the help with another incorporation help with the JD.com. And China is the world's first own with an agriculture commodity blockchain. Okay, and it's in real world cases. And right now, I see most popular, everybody knows to actually blockchain, to use blockchain in the stock market. The first thing is why they need this blockchain in the stock market. The problem is in the stock market currently has a complex procedures. They have the pre-trade, trade, and post-trade, and the custody, and the security servicing, and also they have a multi-layer stack to for the time consuming and some kind of cost inefficient and sometimes highly prone to the risk. It's why usually the traders and with brokers, they need to take 3 days to complete all the transactions. And also you can see the size and the growth of the global stock exchange. They also need they need a new technology to explore or to store their own data. It's why the stock exchange exploring the blockchain technology. Entries in United States, NASDAQ is currently leading the blockchain revolution in 2015. In 2015, NASDAQ revealed its NASDAQ leading blockchain ledger technology and complete and recorded private transaction for their clients chains.com. And also NASDAQ with CB's help, they create another payment transaction. So that's why our stock exchange is famous for the blockchain and just all the transactions based on the blockchain technology. Okay. And next one, I will show you what's the benefits of the blockchain. And I think definitely automation. And you can see automation is just the machines automatically record all the information, accuracy, and what's the full disclosure and transparency. And blockchain is massive, a popular ledger of every user activity across an entire extensive network, and also control our finance without compromising security. Also, they have a faster transactions and with lower transaction fees. And also, blockchain technologies are permitting this other industries. Also undermining the Facebook CEO, he said this earliest year, 2008, under the mission statement, he said he was particularly interested in how the technology can empower the company Facebook. Okay, and this one's let's talk about some kind of issue with the blockchain. The blockchain actually has the environmental cost. This the energy consumption. For the example, for the Bitcoin, they say last year it was claimed for the computing power required to keep the network running consumed as much as was used by 159 of the world's nations. So it's very cost energy. So that's why they need to improve for the energy consumption part. Also, yes.
You believe that? Sounds awfully large.
I know.
I heard these claims.
I know.
And I just want to asperge some doubt on this, because how could it be that suppose they have 1,000 computers running it somewhere, meaning you don't think that any nation will have more than 1,000 computers running? Maybe 10,000, maybe 100,000. So I heard this argument regularly, and I just don't like it. I could be totally wrong. I haven't studied it, I won't study it.
Okay, maybe we can do more research. Yeah, and the second one is.
No. I think I'm not asperging doubts on your research. I heard the same argument.
Oh, really?
Okay,
Yeah.
the question is it a valid argument or not? That's.
Okay. All right. Okay, we just try to
Meaning
figure out
things
that.
like cloud,
Uh-huh.
okay, there are a lot of cloud locations in the world. They have in their environment sitting 10,000, sometimes 100,000, sometimes million computer baselines. How is it possible that it consumes more than 159 world's nations? Maybe the island of Togo might be one that multiplied by 159. That doesn't make sense.
I know, but there's the people, they say, this is why they have a big problem with the blockchain.
I am not
Yeah.
doubting
Yeah.
that this is in the literature. I saw it myself.
Okay.
I guess that they just calculate that measure based on, so when you buy a computer, it says that when you use turbo boost, your CPU can get up to 2.9 gigahertz. Actually, the CPU, it runs like 1.9 or 8 something. But that stuff's like they use GPU or TPU stuffs. And actually, I think that they calculate based on the full capacity of my GPU, TPU. And then it's gonna be like endogenously higher than normal size.
But still, there are millions of them. And so how can it be that
It's too high.
that a particular blockchain application running in, let's say, 1,000 computers, I don't know how many nodes there is in Bitcoin, but is the biggest one. It can't be that it's occupying more. 159 world's nations is something like 2/3 of the world nations. So would include the countries like Netherlands, smaller countries.
Okay, then let's continue. The second one is the problem with the blockchain is like the regulation that creates a risky environment. That's why this category still needs more regulation to regulate all the value-based blockchain networks. So due to the lack of a regulatory server, the scams, and market manipulation are commonplace. And the third one is the complexity, means the user is so hard to understand what's the blockchain, how it works. So that's why they need to take time and to make effort to understand the principle, the encryption and the distributed ledgering behind the blockchain. And the fourth is the blockchain can be slow and sometimes cumbersome, just like due to their complexity and the encrypted and distributed nature. Blockchain transaction can take a while to process. Even you won't try to buy a coffee, sometimes they need to try to connect with another side of the transaction and the provider, the merchant provider. So they need to set a block and then they need to verify the payment. So maybe the payment system maybe is kind of slower and it's more complicated than the traditional cash in credit card. So also the last one we listed is like a high initial cost. That means the first thing they need to replace the old traditional system, and they need to install all the blockchain. So that means that they need to cost more in the beginning. So also this is the second one, the integration with the legacy system, how they can combine the system together, and also involve the privacy and security problem. So this kind of whole issue we found with the blockchain. And this was like we just cited from the CEO of IBM. They say today's blockchain is a technology behind the digital currency, Bitcoin. Might seem like a trinket for the computer geeks, but once widely adopted, it will transform the world. So, thanks for everybody. That's our presentation.
What do you guys think? Yeah.
After the presentation, I have a question. So, does it mean like the blockchain technology has been adopted after the innovation of the Bitcoin? So, my question is simply is, like, does blockchain firstly gonna be used like in the banking, or just like simply using the Bitcoin, and then people figure like this technology of the blockchain could be widely used in other aspects?
Since the start was using it with Bitcoin,
With the
but I
first
show you the
Bitcoin.
chart. All the industry they try to imply into the blockchain to their industry.
I understand,
So,
but
then they take times and technology, and they need budget to improve their current systems. That's why actually a lot of industry they try to improve it.
right, I understand.
Yeah.
But like the innovation of blockchain is firstly innovated by the Bitcoin, or after or before the Bitcoin.
But right now we already have a Bitcoin. We have Bitcoin stocks. We have a Bitcoin index. What kind of they actually the stock market they already adopting all the blockchain into their system. But right now, for another industry, there's still like a potential pre-development area. But supposedly, yeah.
I think it's a start from Bitcoin because it is used to record each transaction with Bitcoin.
Okay.
So I think if you want to use it to other industry, you have to improve the ability to offer service to other in the large amount of transactions. So I think that's the point.
So after the innovation of the Bitcoin, the other industries just like figure like the blockchain technology could be widely used, and then this is like kind of developed in other industries. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it's currently.
Can I add two things? I think right now accounting, the next step will be accounting auditing area. Because you can check all the website, all the big accounting firms, they all list the blockchain technology to apply to their auditing and assurance area. So maybe I think the big innovation will be like in
questions. Let me just make a couple of comments here. This is very good. Thank you. Just a little technical clarification. These are called exchanges. An exchange where you execute your blockchain thing, okay? And so this guy's buying, this guy's selling. When there is a transaction, it goes to an incipient block, something that's being stacked, okay? And the transaction is here. This is not a legitimate transaction until it gets confirmed. How does it get confirmed? It gets confirmed because there are many nodes that copy this. And there is a validation mechanism, and like a competition between them, very well explained by the group, by Kathy and Helen, okay? And then this thing gets validated. There's several transactions in this block. And then they use an encryption mechanism to tie these together, and then they cannot be changed because this encryption mechanism wouldn't be generated with any other different transactions. And then they tie this to the next one, and so the next encryption mechanism here would have their data and this particular algorithm, this particular number. So once you are posted and validated on the blockchain, you cannot be changed, because anything that gets changed here, this wouldn't encrypt correctly, this wouldn't encrypt correctly. So it's kind of pretty sure, Professor Kogan, who is a mathematician, thinks that the mechanism is very reliable. So there has been a lot of fraud-related type of things in blockchain, but they haven't been here. They have been here, in the suppliers of the information. The other thing to think about this is that there are two things here. One thing is a database mechanism, and the other thing is an application. And Bitcoin is an application. And what Helen was talking about is that there are hundreds of applications emerging. But so what that means, you take Bitcoin out of the schema and put an application here. And Brian, you said that we're going to talk about smart contracts, correct? Okay, so Brian is going to talk about smart contracts, Andrea will talk about smart contracts. And the smart contracts is an application that you put on here. The application itself is not validated. What does that mean? That what the code is on that software is not being validated by Bitcoin, by blockchain. What is being validated that it has not been adulterated. What is validated meaning that code hasn't been changed. Okay, so if you have an application here, and then you change the application here, this encryption mechanism will provide you that someone didn't come in and tamper with it, but didn't guarantee you that that application at the beginning was correct. There were no bugs there were no Trojan horses, nothing to be adulterated. So the thing for you to, meaning you can't, this is complicated, and the algorithms are very complicated, the methods are complicated. Even I don't understand them very well. I don't think even Alex understands the whole thing without doing a lot of research. So, but there are things to be understood. One thing is a database mechanism. The other thing is there is an application setup. Very important thing. You can trust that these things have integrity. You cannot trust that these guys have integrity. And you can't trust that this transportation has integrity. Could be done over the internet, could be fake, could be all kinds of things. But you can trust that these guys have integrity. The other thing is what's really basically different between blockchain databases and other databases. is that the other databases usually are within a company, controlled by the company, by the security procedures of the company, and etc. And this thing here is in the public domain. In the public domain means what? Many people have copies and everyone has access. If the elements, the ledger entries on the block are readable, haven't been encrypted, everyone can read that particular thing. If they are not readable, you just get an encrypted string that you don't understand. One more thing on security that you probably know or you may not know. There is a thing called private-public encryption. And so basically, a person has two keys. One key is a private key, only you know it. And the other key is a public key. Everyone can go on a database and pick up your key. And so if you want to send something to a bank or to whoever you're sending it, you send it encrypted with those two keys. And you say, this is Miklos. So when the bank receives it, he goes on the public key list, pick up your key and decrypts it. When they are sending something to you, they encrypt it with your public key. And then only you can read it because you are the only one that have your private key. So don't give your key away to anyone, okay? Not even to your girlfriend or etc. More divorces were generated by girlfriends and wives and husbands seeing people's emails. So even you, as much as it was your husband and etc., it's a bad idea to give anyone your keys. Now, this public-private key, there is a whole protocol explaining this thing, but it is reasonably easy to understand. Encryption key is public and private. The public, everyone has it. The private, only you have it. Okay? And in order to decrypt the message, you need to know either who the person is, to use the public key, or is you that got something encrypted in your public key and you decrypt it in the private. And if you make these keys very long, 128, 256, 512, they become computationally impossible to be violated. Okay, so just understand that. Public-private key, that's important to understand. Now, what's happening in the blockchain domain? And I enjoy the questions here and etc. But what first, maybe 2 years ago, PwC was trying to invest on a blockchain company. And they started working with a company called Libra. We are associated to Libra these days, okay? And they investigated 600 startups in blockchain before they settled on working with Libra. So 2 years have passed, blockchain became much more popular. So how many startups you think there are in blockchain at this moment? Udus. Actually, PwC principal, like a partner, that was connected to Libra, left PwC and now is an officer of Libra. And PwC kind of broke up with Libra a little bit. At least that's what it sounds that has happened. Now, continuing the story. So there are thousands of these things. What does that mean? People think that they are going to make a lot of money out of it. Correct? Now, what you see in the scenario of blockchain is there is this public blockchains and there are private blockchains, and they even call it consolidated. What was the other name? Federated. Yeah. Okay, and so that's the idea whereby you don't make it open, you close it out to control it a little bit better. Now, I find there are two things people are doing. One is that And the other they are doing, they are simplifying the encryption algorithm. And the two of them kind of seems a little bit annoying to me and complicated, because the whole merit of blockchain is the fact that encryption is very powerful and there is this multiple testing environment. And so the moment you relax one of them, you are losing a lot of the benefits of blockchain. Now, this is just a professor talking. I'm sure that people in the business will think differently on that, but I heard that talked about. Now, I thought, what was it, 1.7 trillion or 1.3 trillion that you had there in your first slide, or that people are spending in intermediation costs on with financial institutions. It's a big amount of money. Okay, so it was like 1.4, just at the beginning of your slide. Anyway, they are spending more than $1 trillion in intermediation costs, meaning the banks are charging 1 point something trillion to be this intermediary. When you are talking about the financial institutions or intermediation. Okay, so there is a lot of opportunity to replace the 1.7 billion for, let's say, 100 billion, and you make 1% of that. You wouldn't mind making $1 billion, would you? Well, Taylor would like $1 billion. Okay, so this is the basic motivation. I heard this guy, Michael Smith, he's the head of blockchain at PwC, talking about all these kind of restricted blockchains and etc. And he said the whole reason for this is because people want to decrease the cost of intermediation. And why do they want to decrease the cost of intermediation? Because then they'll get the intermediation, Taylor will get the intermediation, is not Citibank who's going to get it. So that's the whole idea for decreasing cost of intermediation. And that's a great motivation to create a public chain that many people can access. I have actually a different prognostic here. I think that companies are very used to keep their data in their own stores. Okay, so the data is locked either in their cloud or in their databases. They're all personal. And if I deal with Anna, I keep a copy of the transaction, Anna keeps a copy of the transaction. And it's not about keeping the copy of the transaction, it's all the bureaucratic processes that ensure integrity can deal with that, can do the processes of that and accept. And that costs a lot of money. So, if you can trust an intermediate chain that you don't manage, you don't keep internally, doesn't cost you money, you are saving money. So me and Taylor and Anna will have, I am the seller, she's the buyer, she's the provider. We have a common chain. And we'll put the data over there, and the data will be managed by maybe someone who is providing the blockchain, but will be cheaper. So I think this kind of multiple user databases that are not sitting on your company will be very powerful. And I think that's why so many people are starting these things up, because I think they are thinking about big bucks around this thing. I had a couple more comments around this thing. Smart contracts that you're going to hear a lot about it. They really don't depend on blockchain. You can write a computer program implementing a smart contract. So I say, if she borrows more than $1 million, call her loan. That's a very definite rule. And if you can measure the $1 million, measure the borrowing, you can call the loan. It's definite. It's much more difficult to do a probabilistic thing. So you can write a whole set of attributes or rules that are implemented in small contract, you can put in a computer program. The reason why it would be interesting to have it in a blockchain is that many people can access those rules. And therefore, you have a common basis of rules. But before you put a smart program into it, you need to kind of validate the program carefully. And so you could have this program separate, you could have that in the blockchain. People think this is going to be a very large business, talk about many billion, maybe even trillion. But of course, all these technologies, when they start, they get hyped very big. I think basically, blockchain is a database. And what gets piggybacked on top of it, what is the programs that go into it, is still to be tested. But one thing we know for a fact is that there is a lot of interest on it, and many industries are looking at it. We have been talking to the Brazilian government, and they want to put all the records of real estate transactions on a blockchain. That sounds like a perfect application, because it's public record, you no need to go to a dusty basement and pick up a record, it's sitting over there. And many people can examine it, use it. That sounds good. NASDAQ, with this idea, but they are only doing it for their private transactions because the volume is very big. And then comes to the question that I questioned when Helen was talking about, is about the usage of 159 countries' equivalent power. Think about this exponential multiplication of applications. Everyone is doing it. Meaning we are going to use we won't have light anymore because we're using it out for blockchain. So it doesn't seem very credible to me. It's, despite my friend Aaron here saying that making some computations of his own. But it's a very interesting question. Is this really true? Meaning if you turn every computer on at full blast in the entire world, will that dim the lights? What do you think?
We need more nuclear plants.
We need more?
Nuclear plants.
Nuclear?
Plants. Generate electricity.
Oh, and explode like Fukushima?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so you understand some of the questions here. We're going to continue talking. Every cocktail party you go, you're going to hear about blockchain. If you go to cocktail parties, okay? There was one more comment Helen made here that kind of makes you ponder a little bit. She made, basically, Bitcoin has a 10-minute cycle. You complete the blocks, and then you put them out for test every 10 minutes. Okay, and I think that's the basis for Helen's comment that takes one of the negatives that it takes time, correct? I think that you can change the technology, make it every minute, every 10 seconds, etc., but that's not what Bitcoin does at this moment. And you use a private database at Citibank, the response is much faster than 10 minutes. Correct? So obviously that's an issue, etc. It's just, I think that technology can activate. The other thing, if you think that they are using so much power, what happens if they decide to put every transaction on the New York Stock Exchange on a blockchain? What happens if you decide to do worse than that, every credit card transaction in the United States in blockchains? Meaning, we are going to go on the dark for sure, if that would be the case. I don't think that's the case. So it's very interesting, whole set of discussions. And by the way, we have big bearings on your life, okay? Because if this is as big as people think it is, I don't think it's as big as people think it is. It's going to be tremendous effect here. Yeah?
Professor, what is the benefits of putting the data on a blockchain?
Okay. Two benefits that I think that they are basic ones. One benefit is that the basic string of data at this moment cannot be manipulated. Second benefit is that you can set it up in a way that is very open and transparent, so everyone can look at it and understand what's in there. Okay? So
So my real estate records, I don't have to go on private database, etc. I can just look them up here, and I can keep my every transaction in New York City recorded immediately and analyzed immediately in my own private servers. I think these are the two benefits. I think the third thing that would be very useful is mounting instead of Bitcoin application here, smart contracts here. And for example, I'm going to kind of be working, we are going to be looking at the robotic process automation, which is how the way you make something pretty automatic, and use those rules, put those rules in a blockchain for certain things. So you can have a very formalized type of thing built on your blockchain. The benefit people always talk is about reducing the cost of intermediation. But when they are talking about that, they are also talking about private or restricted chains, which makes me worry a little bit. Because the moment you create a private chain, you're creating an intermediation situation, where someone will charge in order to do it. Particularly if it takes too much power, someone needs to pay for the power. Yeah.
What do you mean by basic string of data? Is it like a history or track record of data? Like they can.
Well, a blockchain is a set of blocks. This block is built. You use a crypt that relates that block to create the tail of the head of the block. Okay? Then you have more transactions. You have the stream here. You have more transaction. You have the stream here. Then you use this crypt and these elements of the block to create this one. So there is a long stream that everyone can go back and validate. And you can't change the number here because then all the block heads will not work. And in order to close the block, I had never seen such a good slide about a block closing competition thing as I saw Helen's and Kathy's. Because that explains quite nicely that there is all these parallel nodes competing who gets to close it. Because the person who gets to close it gets a reward, makes money. And there are, I heard that some Eastern European countries have that as a big industry, collecting money in Bitcoins. Now, anyone looked up what's the value of Bitcoin today?
7,000.
How much?
It's in the 7,000.
I don't think it's that high,
Yeah.
more like in the
It's like-
6,000.
let me see this one.
Went up again? Oh. Then,
So can anyone make a blockchain?
in theory, anyone can add a node to Bitcoin, for example.
But only certain people can start it? Or,
No, now at this moment, anyone can create a node. Meaning, my PhD students, 3 of them created their own little blockchain using Ethereum protocols, because these are public, and by the way, Bitcoin, same thing, public software that you can build your own.
okay, so like the cost of making a Bitcoin is 0? Or,
No, the Bitcoin itself, the coin, is a restricted supply.
okay.
Okay? Shinshin, I saw your hand going slight up, but not quite.
So I kind of think blockchain is an open bookkeeping. Like everybody can, it's not like transaction only, but you can also write down the fact. Or say, I say today I own Professor Miklos $5, and I wrote down in my blog, and he wrote down in his blog, like.
Now, you could create a block of that way,
Yeah.
but the blockchain today is really transactions.
Make it simpler so everybody in this room saw this and write down in their blocks, and then if I want to change it, I say no, I didn't borrow $5 from Professor Miklos. Then I have to control 51% of the everybody.
I know what you're saying. Well, in that mechanism that you are talking about, many people competing, you can cheat that mechanism by controlling 51% of them. You have the majority, so the majority decides what's right. So if you are a defrauder and you put a lot of nodes on a blockchain, you can dominate the blockchain. It's interesting, but she also said something else that's very interesting. She just invented the derivative blockchain block, which is interesting, is an idea. Creating a blockchain that is not on Bitcoins, but is on future value of Bitcoins and trades on future value.
They have that.
Yeah, they have that, I'm sure. I just haven't never.
Referring to Daniel's question, is there any regulation like for the federal or for the government to supervise people like just creating like the virtual currency based on the blockchain? Because I've heard a lot of like blockchain virtual currencies in China is more kind of like a fraud.
Okay, let's go 2 steps on this. I wanted to show my regulation slides, but I never got there. And I think you heard me say this. Uber, okay? Uber competes with yellow cabs. Yellow cab has medallions. Remember that whole conversation? Okay, the rules that apply to yellow cabs don't apply very well to Uber. The rules that apply to any kind of modern technology that is doing more traditional things, like renting space or whatever, have to be somewhat different. I think the same thing with cryptocurrencies. There needs rules on cryptocurrencies that are not the rules of traditional money management or the money regulation. And the other thing is they're creating these cryptocurrencies that really are issuing stock on a company, okay? And those things are totally unregulated at this moment. And it's inevitable that there'll be fraud there. The Security Acts of 33-34 was created to regulate a wild stock market, stock buy and sell market, which many companies that were selling stock did not exist. And that's why auditors started existing, say, I went there and I saw that this company really exists, and etc. And this is actually happening in the cryptocurrency market. So it's inevitable there's going to be this thing. The other question, which is a very interesting question, and if you guys don't understand, please say it because I'll try to simplify it further. I'm trying to be visible, simple. The other question that is coming is that a lot of the money, for example, in Bitcoin, comes from where? From illegal activities. Money laundering. And why is that?
Not trackable.
Huh?
You can't track it.
Yeah. So meaning you have a black economy or you are trafficking drugs or etc. It's very useful to have a cyber currency. So it's inevitable. I don't even know why anyone thinks differently. It's inevitable that governments are going to try to regulate cyber currencies. It's inevitable. And I think they're going to try to do something like the Clipper chip. The Clipper chip was a chip proposed by the government that you could put data you process on it, but the government would have a secret key to go in there and examine what's the transaction going to. That was thrown down by public reaction, but eventually meaning, if not, no one will pay taxes, correct? Particularly countries that people pay very low amount of taxes, okay? And so no one will pay taxes and all governments will go bankrupt. You really don't want that. I mean, you need organized life. You need someone to build roads, to dig ditches, whatever, to create education, etc. So I think it's inevitable that cyber currencies, stocks being generated electronically, etc. All of these things will be regulated. If they are not regulated, organized society will disappear. They have to be regulated. But you know, the fear is that you try to apply the old regulations into this new type of things. And by the way, it takes a long time for regulation to come in. And regulation typically comes in when someone does something wrong. And then there is a crisis, and then legislators say, oh, we need a law for that, and then they go to some technicians that will create the law. Now this is simplification, but that's thing. If, let's see how we are in the last moment of our class, you have a little bit of time, maybe we'll kind of come back to a couple of these issues. But let me just summarize a few things I said here. First, blockchain is a database, form of database. The advantage of form database that is open and many people can share it and has great integrity in its core procedures. Blockchain, you can mount on top of it a smart contract. And the smart contract will be any application, including Bitcoin. Okay? And responding to the last question was basically what's going to happen. For things to remain organized in society, this thing will have to be regulated, and the government will have to have a way to go in there and see what transactions are being done, or you cannot tax transactions. And to be candid, I'm surprised that it hasn't happened in the US yet. It's just they are too busy meeting with the Russians all the time. They have to think about it. This is very, very serious, very disruptive. Okay, so this needs to be done. Okay, so what do we do next? I don't want to take the whole class.
I think Omar and Johnny can present.
I thought it was the 30th.
Yes, it's me and Lana.
Professor, just a quick question. What do you mean by validating a transaction in blockchain?
Oh, but what happens in blockchain, validation is done the following way. We propose a transaction, two parties propose a transaction, and the transaction is on the ledger. The ledger has not been validated yet. When many parties compete for their calculated, the algorithm was calculated correctly, and think that there is nothing else wrong, one of them will be chosen to get the prize, and the whole thing will be validated and closed by a click, and you go to the next one.
Okay.
So there is, as they showed, and their slides were very good, showed an open block, saying the block is not quite validated yet. Did I answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, so today Lana and I are going to talk to you about applications of RFIDs. So some of you might not know what an RFID is, and it basically stands for radio frequency identification. And basically it's just a way that you can read information that's stored in a tag or a label by using radio waves. So in order to do this, you have to have three components. The first is a tag or a sticker or a chip. They come in all different types. You have to have an antenna and you have to have a reader. There are two types of RFIDs. One of them is passive and one of them is active. The difference is the active it has its own power source, which is usually a battery or something like that. And a passive has no power source of its own, so it basically draws energy from the reader's radio frequency waves. The cost varies, obviously, depending on if it's passive or active. The tags for passive range anywhere from like 5 cents, or for an active RFID, it would be something more like 25, or it could even be higher depending on its sophistication. The readers also vary a lot in cost. You can get handheld readers for a few $1,000s. And we'll see further in the presentation, there's also like doorway RFID readers that obviously are very expensive, and forklifts can just drive right through them and it will tell you like everything that's on that pallet. We'll also show you later in the presentation the way that the NFL is using RFID and the way that they've done set up all of the stadiums, and that's obviously extremely expensive. So there are a ton of uses of RFID just in everyday things. Obviously, traditional use is in pet and livestock tracking. So if anyone has a pet that's microchipped, it's basically an RFID chip that's then like the vet or someone will use a reader and will tell you like who the pet is and where it belongs. They're used in passports. It's the technology behind EasyPass. A lot of ski resorts are now going to RFID ski passes, so you can basically still keep it in your pocket. You don't have to have it like the tag hanging out, and it will let you through. Airlines use it to track luggage. Libraries use it to track books. It's the way you can get into hotel rooms. And I don't know if anyone's ever used Zipcar, but it's basically the technology behind Zipcar. So you get a zip card, and then you find your car that you have a reservation for. You hold the card up to the car, and it verifies that you're the person who has the reservation, and it then unlocks the car for you to get in.
Is that what Tesla do?
Sorry?
Is that what Tesla do? The Tesla has a card instead of the key.
Oh, I have no idea.
I didn't understand the question.
Yeah, the Tesla not using the key to open the car, but use the card to open the car as long as you put the card near to the car.
Yeah,
It's kind of like
yeah, my car, the Acura MDX, this thing has it has the same kind of technology.
right, I understand.
RFID.
But that still is like the form of it is still is a key. But the Tesla use the key to become a card, like the debit card, and you put on your pocket. And when you're near the car, like the car like automatically start the engine, instead of using a key to open.
Yeah, this opens the door, but could start the engine. Yeah.
Okay.
Also, if anyone's been to Disney World in the past few years, the Magic Bands are all RFID technology. Visa, Payware, MasterCard, PayPass, and also the cars, the keyless entry and keyless ignition, those are all RFID technologies. There's also a subset of RFID called NFC, Near Field Communication. It also uses radio waves, and it also requires the same three components. But unlike the RFID, it has a much closer range. So it says that the max range is 4 inches, but I think normally you always have to tap it. So it'd be like your Apple Pay would be NFC, where you tap it to pay. And unlike RFID, which basically just reads the information off the tag, with an NFC tag, you can put data, information, and instructions onto it that tells the reader to perform a task. And I'll show you kind of some clunky examples of it. Modern smartphones, many of them are NFC readers. Android phones are NFC readers. Apple phones that are 7 or above can read some things if you have an NFC reader app on them. So I'll show you kind of some things. They make so I have an NFC app on my iPad. I don't know how well you guys can see. And I used an NFC tag on our accounting book. And obviously this is more convenient if your cell phone is a reader. But basically you just have to turn it on. You can put the reader against the tag. And then it will take you, so I programmed this to take it to our place where we do our homework for accounting. Just by scanning this little tag. And so you can tell it to go to a website, you can tell it to make a phone call or text someone, you know, whatever instructions you want. So this is also a writer, so it's a reader writer. You can connect it to the computer, and you can use like this app that I had. You can just like, you put your tag on that's and it will write, and you can use the tags over and over and over again to rewrite a prompt.
So our label is all the same. This device will only connect, like, read that tag and then perform the procedures that you programmed.
Yes, but theoretically you can use any reader or any writer. This just happens to be the one that I have. And like I said, I don't know if anyone has an Android phone, but theoretically you can use that as a reader, and it will just come up on your cell phone with a website.
So is there a chip in there that label?
Is an RFID chip there, correct?
Yeah, NFC, yeah. Another example, and I haven't had good luck with this today either, they make business cards with NFC chips inside them. So I programmed this to, when you hold it against someone's cell phone, assuming it's an Android that works, then it will take you directly to my website. So I don't know if anyone has an Android phone. You want to give it a try?
But do I need to download some app?
Supposedly not on the Android. With an iPhone 7 or later, it will work if you have an NFC reader app.
This works a little bit like QR codes. The QR code is a unique identification to go somewhere, and there you put the location where you want the thing to go.
Yeah. I mean, you can try just if you have an Android without an app and see if it will work.
But I need to download the app.
Supposedly not. Here. If you just, let's see if it works. It did work on my husband's iPhone with the app. But does it work? Okay. So it is Anyway, that's just an example.
Pretty cool. Can you guys figure out what you can do with that? You can do a lot of stuff.
So how can you make a business card? MOO.com, and they do the business cards. You can get like 50 for $70, I think. And then you can tell it to do whatever you want it to do.
This is cool.
So RFID is obviously used in a lot of different places. It's used a lot in business, in supply chain, in all areas of supply chain. And it allows businesses to track and identify products throughout all aspects of the product cycle, so manufacturing, transportation, warehousing, inventory. And you can see the different types of tags. So they tag the individual item, they tag the box, there's a tag on the pallet, and then it goes into the truck with a tag. And then the different readers in the middle, so you can have obviously a handheld one, a fixed doorway, you could put one on the shelf. And depending on the RFID system, the range can be anywhere from like, it can read from 30 feet away to 300 feet away. So it's, you know, depending on what kind of system you have, you can read a lot in a warehouse and tell exactly what you've got. And this is just kind of a diagram of all the different areas. So it can start in a plant where they put an RFID tag on every item, load it into a truck, it goes to the warehouse. As soon as it goes into the door, they can pretty much see what's on it, what's on the pallet, or in the boxes. And then it just flows throughout until it gets to the store. And we'll talk a little bit more about what it's like when it gets to a retail store. So as you can see, an RFID system saves a lot of manpower. It saves a huge, it's, you know, cost efficient as far as labor, but it is a very capital intensive and very expensive to put all of the readers and antennas and all that stuff in the warehouses. Again, the fixed doorway systems are expensive. And you know, when you tag, the tags themselves are very inexpensive, but when you start having to tag every item, every box, every pallet, you know, it gets to be very expensive. So it's usually used in places where there's a lot of inventory coming in, going out. places like Walmart use it a lot to track, but smaller places, it may not be cost efficient for them to do something like this. Okay, so this is just a quick video to show you. More information in terms of size, location, the number of items available. So that's why it's and the information gets collected faster, much faster than with the traditional barcode editing. So RFID is, let's say, in fashion retail, is used for item level tagging in retail stores. In addition to inventory count, this provides both protection against theft by shoplifters and also employees, which is called image. Also, self-checkout process for customers. Using this technology increases, gets better results for the businesses. For example, inventory accuracy rises from an average of 63 to 95%. Retail out of stocks is reduced by up to 50%, and human error is virtually eliminated. For example, I don't know, maybe you can confirm it. Macy's was planning to, if you know that Macy's was planning by the end of 2017 to be completely RFID. Every port was 100% equipped with RFID chips. Do you know that?
Yeah, that was one of their strategies. So.
But did they do that?
Yeah, I remember actually my team was responsible for putting like RFID tags. They had to find the missing tags. But it's like a very complicated process because we get so much returns too. And when you get the returns, you have to check there's RFID on it, but sometimes the associates are not trained enough or know how to do that. So it's usually when we do like an RFID scan of the whole store, we usually get around like 95% of the merchandise.
That's why in some places RFID use is it's underused because the employees don't have enough training. It also can be used in the grocery segment of retail. I found a very interesting video. Panasonic introduced the first fully automated checkout register. And it's really cool. I hope they do it here too.
This Lawson convenience store is in collaboration with Panasonic. The two are conducting demonstration experiments of Panasonic's new robotic checkout system, which uses RFID tags. So let's go inside and try it out. In order to use this checkout system, you need to use this special basket. All you need to do is put in the items that you want. Each item is affixed with an RFID tag, and this RFID tag is the key to this checkout system. We place the basket in the robotic checkout system. The bottom of the basket opens, and the items go down below. There, the items are placed into a plastic bag, and the RFID tags are read. The total is displayed here. All that's left is to pay. Your items are ready.
RFID タグとは、近距離の無線通信が可能な一つ一つのタグごとに個別の ID 情報を大量に記録することができる薄く小さな電子部品です。これまでも入館証や交通カードなど身近なところに広く活用されているものです。RFID タグが商品すべてに付けられることで、レジロボによるお客さんの買い物時間の短縮と新しい買い物体験の提供、店舗運営されている従業員の皆様の業務効率改善化に貢献できればと考えています。さらに流通全体につながるプラットフォームを構築していきます。将来的に製造段階で RFID タグが全ての商品につけば、5品単位のトレーサビリティが可能となります。例えば店舗や物流センターでの在庫情報をリアルタイムに管理することができるので、POSシステムと連携させることで過剰生産や大量廃棄を防ぎ、フードロスなどの改善に貢献できます。さらに IoT 技術で他の情報ともつながることで、無駄のない次世代トレーサビリティを作り、さらなるお役立ちに貢献できると考えています。
Now, this technology has only just begun, but I believe that Panasonic will support supply chains of the future. Stay tuned.
Panasonic.
Well, actually, this video was made a year ago, so it's already introduced and it's being used in Japan. RFID is also effectively used in healthcare, in hospital and other facilities. Before 2015, less than 10% of US hospitals utilized RFID in any form, and since then it was due to demand and effective use in other places. Its use has grown exponentially. It can be used in inventory tracking and authentication. For example, medicine. Hospitals always need to have on hand the right amount and the right medicine. Counterfeiting is on the rise recently because of high costs associated with prescription and life-saving medicines. And this way, their RFID tags are placed inside of bottles or boxes, and that's how pharmacies and hospitals can make sure that they have the real product. So it can be used to prevent medical errors. For example, the braces that patients have, they have the exact information, and in case of emergency, they need to make sure that the patient gets the right medicine and gets to the right part of the hospital. It's actually also used for the safety of newborns, because from between 1965 and May 2017, 137 newborns were adopted from in the United States from medical facilities. The RFID bracelet is placed in every infant's leg. When the baby gets close to the exit door, the alarm starts sounding, the doors are locked. If someone unauthorized tries to remove the bracelet, there is a different alarm sounds, and there are fixed reference readers, so they will read that and the personal numbers will know. So they used to prevent unauthorized access and track our large equipment, because it can be misplaced. And actually, interesting fact, some say that those who work in medicine very important that before a new patient is admitted, there is a clean language sheets always with him, and this tags Rolodex help make sure that they do have it, and also medical instruments. They also now equip them with those tags because it turns out every year research shows that surgical instruments are contaminated with bacteria from previous procedures. So they're not clean instruments. Human implantation, very interesting subject, but there is not that much information than I thought there would be. So it's a size of about a grain of rice, and it's inside of a special glass capsule. It was approved by FDA in 2004, and primary use was to store medical information of patients. Well, they're called in compliance patients, I believe, but it's not the right word to use. So basically, to retrieve the information when patient is unconscious. They also used to prove the membership. I know that in Barcelona there used to be a club where they offered to VIP guests these chips so that they could enter with those chips and pay with those chips. Implants. It also, okay, there is a group of population, they call themselves biohackers, and they believe that human microchip implantation is the next step in human evolution, and they kind of promote the use of technology in making the life easier. So they buy, there is a website, I don't know, can I say the name or I shouldn't? They sell the DIY implantation kits. So you can go to the physician's office and insert it. And they use it to log on into the computer, open locks, like door locks, open and start their cars, that kind of stuff. In the future, it can be used to identify individual physical location. It turns out, I thought it's possible because we see that in the movies, but it's not possible right now because those implants, they don't have GPS on them. So in the future, it's going to be possible. Again, cashless society, like people can pay with these chips in cryptocurrency, and it can use this crime prevention tool to mark criminals. But there are kind of disadvantages with it. They can be infected with a computer virus, and it was proven by one scientist who had the chip and on purpose got the virus into it. They can migrate within the body, and some companies, they actually offering their employees to be to have that chip implanted so that they can use it for the access in that company facilities. But at least United States right now they have laws which prohibit forcible human implantation. So it all should be done with
Okay, RFID is also used a lot in sports now. So FIFA was one of the first organizations that really started using RFID, and they started using it in 2006. So all of the tickets for World Cup games are now have RFID on them. And this prevents fraud, so people can't counterfeit them. Apparently they used to have a really big problem with that, and now that's pretty much eliminated all of that. RFID timing systems are used a lot in a variety of sports, running, swimming, cycling, cross-country skiing. And basically they have readers at the finish lines, and they'll do chips, like this is from a mountain bike race, a number, and it basically on the back it has like an RFID tag So when they cross the finish line, it reads you your time. So they can either be stickers like that. A lot of times they'll have like wrist and ankle bracelets that will have the chips on them, and that's how they time a lot of races now.
Can we see
They use it for New York Road runners.
Yeah.
When we run, you have a little chip you put in your shoes.
Yeah, yeah. And they'll have, like I said, the readers right there, and they'll have mats at the finish line, so as you step on the mat, then it kind of gets your time. It's obviously a lot more accurate than having an actual person timing as you're crossing. In the NHL since 2011, the Tampa Bay Lightning has given all of their season ticket holders jerseys, and in the arm of the jersey it has an RFID chip. And so when they go to the concession stand or to the store, they get discounts. They scan the chip and they get discounts.
So the RFID can get wet and you can with a wash machine it'll still work?
And they said after this was implemented, the number of season ticket holders doubled because everyone wanted these jerseys. And it's now used extensively in the NFL. So in 2014, they started putting chips in shoulder pads, and they're active chips, so they're bigger than a sticker would be for the passive chip. And they outfitted all of the stadiums with antennas and readers. And I'll show you a video in a minute, but that's also how they do this next gen stats. I don't know, I'm not a football watcher, but apparently this is like a big thing when you watch it on TV now. They're able to tell you like which player is doing what and give all kinds of statistics. And then as of this past season, they started using footballs with RFID chips in them. So they can tell you like how fast the ball went and the rotation and things like that. So I'll
On
show
a
you.
more pedestrian basis, my Jets badge, instead of paper tickets, you have that thing, and then you can walk in.
Yeah, yeah.
In 2014, the NFL strategically selected Zebra's MotionWorks system. Using patented RFID technology, Zebra's innovative system automatically generates the most reliable and analyzable big data set in sports and produce real-time insights to assist in coaching and player evaluation decisions. Zebra's time-tested and proprietary technology has revolutionized real-time player tracking.
CBS Sports, in partnership with the NFL, introduces you to next-generation statistic groundbreaking technology that brings you to the screen never-before-seen player-specific metrics direct from tracking devices worn by every player tonight.
Zebra's real-time player tracking system during live game broadcasts now gives fans a new ability to see player participation, groupings, formations, route running, speed, separation, and new distance stats never before featured. The system also provides coaches with in-depth insights into players during practices, using data never before available to learn more about players' capabilities, develop more targeted coaching plans, and create specific training programs for guiding and monitoring player development over the course of a season and career, all of which will have a positive influence on how the game is played and how fans will experience it.
The funny thing is, apparently, Major League Baseball had also considered doing something like this with RFID, but then they decided to use a different technology that relied a lot on facial recognition. So a lot of the stats and stuff that you'll see when you watch a Major League Baseball game is actually similar stats, but it's a different technology.
but actually, if you think about it, RFID only reads people who use the scanners to read the barcodes, and those people did other jobs anyway, like stocking shelves and stuff like that, so they will still have their jobs. And there were instances when those microchips, they caused cancer tumors in the hands and genetics.
Can you think of any usage of RFID in the classroom? Besides the textbook that you attendance, yeah. What else?
That's what I was gonna say, maybe for attendance, or maybe it could be a system where like whoever answers the question or raises their hand.
Okay, so it's like a clicker type of application. Okay, you go ahead, Anna.
Yeah, there's actually like a thing they just created now. I think it's RFID, and I wanted to ask them, but this thing basically you can stick it to anything, like your textbook, your phone in the classroom, for example, or your exam, and then you can just track it on the app. So actually, I wanted to ask you guys.
Oh, that tile stuff?
Yeah, it's tile actually.
Yeah. But in those things, usually, I think they only work if somebody else has the tile app, like on their phone and is nearby.
Yeah.
So there are some limits.
It just tracks your things that you speak to. It's like this. You have to like download the app. And like if I was the one who didn't know, yeah, it will track it and show me and play the sound. Yeah.
Okay, let's have a 10-minute break and then we'll come back.
About the SOC for supply chain and the SOC for cybersecurity.
Professor?
And there is a lot of.
Can you use a data marker for that?
Yeah.
It's just not visible.
Okay, but this, it is just this. SOCs, S-O-C, these are new reports, is auditability control reports, and it's basically audits that you do with discrete. They are not like traditional audits. And if you want next time, I'll talk a little bit about the SOCs. But now they're talking about the SOC for supply chain and the SOC for cybersecurity. And the Institute of Audit of IT Auditors called ISACA issued now a maturity model for saying how secure a particular organization is in relation to cybersecurity. When the AICK issued their guide for cybersecurity, I wrote an article which I published criticizing it on the basis of three things. First thing is materiality doesn't apply to this. You all know what materiality is, we already talked about that. Basically, saying if this cybersecurity breach is material or not is a not measurable thing. We need to rethink the concept of fair representation to understand what acceptable error, what is not. Second thing is point in time. You can't really issue an opinion. I am cyber secure at this particular moment. As I said to them, cybersecurity, you always have violation. My typical example is you give your girlfriend your password, that's a cybersecurity violation. So there is always cybersecurity. The question is how deep they are, how frequent they are, how detected they are. And that's number, so 0-1 doesn't apply very well. Also, we are secure, not secure, okay? Point in time doesn't apply very well because it's at this moment, and materiality. So those three things don't apply. They said, oh no, we'll do it in the next time, and ignored it because they wanted to come out. No one yet has issued an opinion on cybersecurity. However, Isaac now issued a maturity model which rates cybersecurity at different levels. So there is some evolution on this. And so this is just introduction. I very thank you for Arian to be willing to talk. Arian is doing research on this area. And he's one of our PhD students, still baby, but in about 2 weeks, he's going to be second year PhD student. So he and Abby came in at the same time. And I'm very happy he's going to talk about this. And then I'll give some opinions here.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is William Chong. I'm a baby. Yes, today I'm going to introduce you about like a brief summary about cybersecurity assurance, and also I'm going to introduce you about our research with also with Dr. Vasarhelyi, a paper. So the paper will be just like a brief summary. I just want to introduce this paper because we use a lot of machine learning techniques to overcome the problems that Dr. Vasarhelyi just mentioned before. So, so who have been hacked before?
Consciously or unconsciously?
So yeah, that's my point. So who has been hacked before? Yeah, like only like 6 or 7 students. I guess most of you guys are hacked. Yeah, so you just don't know. And actually, you can sue other a lot of other companies like Facebook also. But actually, we don't act because also people think that their information, privacy information, they say that it's very important, but actually they don't act that much, isn't it? So, these kind of problems are really, really huge, and it's like a vast amount of damages, but actually we don't realize it. We don't realize it. And actually, Dr. Vasarhelyi just mentioned before that we are not that interest target to those hackers, but actually if our information gathers like thousands and millions, it costs a lot, isn't it? And also it costs a lot for us, isn't it? So information is very important, and also for the company, it's also very important. So I'm just going to give you a brief summary about this stuff here. So there's a lot of risk in the company, is it right? So there's a business risk, and also there's like cybersecurity risk. A lot of risks are related to the company itself, and these kind of risks actually relate to the success of the business, the growth of the business, is it right? So we have a lot of risk, and this is a very important part. And so for our researchers, also for other firms, these kind of like firm risk, based on this firm risk, we can make a predictive model also, and also we can get some kind of economic consequences. So basically, firm risk for us is to get these kind of steps here for as a researcher, but for the company itself, it is essential to realize that what kind of risk they are confronting, is it right? So based on a lot of these kind of risk factors, before that, the source that we enter these kind of risk factors for us, or for you, all of you, I'm going to just assume that you are, let's just say, did you hear about 10K before? Financial statements?
Yes.
Yeah, financial statements. Yeah, I just kind of assume that you are stakeholders of the firm, okay? So you have some kind of interest to the firm. Actually, if you don't, even though you don't own Facebook stocks, you are stakeholders, is it right? Yeah, so I just kind of assume that you are all the stakeholders of the firm here. So as a stakeholder, we can get our information, first of all, external information. So it's going to be social media, news, all of these things, is it right? And also, we'll have 10K or a firm disclosure here. I'm just going to introduce this part because we're going to use this for further analysis later on here. So what kind of risk that we are going to concentrate on this moment is about cybersecurity risk. So we're just going to focus on cybersecurity risk factors here. And based on these cybersecurity risks, actually it's growing much more higher and much more faster. The amount is getting really, really high. So, and also damage is getting really high, increasing. So when you see here, this is 2016 survey here, and it states that 15.4 million US consumers experienced a cyber attack. So do you think that it will be higher? So it said 15.4 million. So this is 2016. In 2017, what did they have? So what kind of information has been leaked in 2017?
Credit bureau.
Yeah.
Facts. Yeah.
Facts.
They have
Yeah.
reached. Yeah.
So a lot of people's social security number have been breached.
And you see, when he asked, how many of you have been hacked? I put my hand up because I had my number there. Okay, you guys didn't even think that that attack or Walmart attacks or etc. affected you. But if you use your credit card and the credit card was harvested, you are hacked, even if you're not personally hacked. meaning your computer didn't enter in your computer. So most of you have been hacked.
So also, how long do you think that it'll take to hack in your computer when you use like unsecured wireless or Wi-Fi? Less than 2 seconds. And I can see, I can just open the web browser that what you want to watch, reading. So that is only like 1 or 2 seconds. And actually, I can hack in like multiple devices. It takes a really, really small time, really small cost to hack into other computers. Not just like your like personal devices. How about a company? If you just hack into a server, so if the hackers, if they target like anonymous, they're powerful hackers. So if they target one company, somehow they will just hack in. Is it right? They can even hack into like government like facilities. Is it right? Data servers. So they have these kind of abilities, and also we know it. We know that they could hack us. But actually, these days, like most of the people think that they can prevent it, but we cannot prevent for sure. Is it right? So also for cybersecurity assurance, this part, just think that not just for preventive, but after the incidents, there should be some kind of recovery processes. So that is why IICPA and CPA, all these people are also interested on the post-incidents. So remind that part here. So this is also the graph, that growing thread here. On this part, this is our analysis here. We just use item 1A, but actually this is the risk factors. This is a sector of the item 1K. But actually, our algorithm can use any kind of like textual data. So I will just introduce you why we use textual data for the very future here. So I'm just gonna skip this part here. So, so traditionally, like I guess like 50 years or 60 years ago, the most precious asset of the company could be some kind of physical things, right? Some kind of tangible things. But these days, when you see retailers, they just say Amazon. So why Amazon is spending a lot of money to gather information, data, like customer data? Because actually that is their most precious data, is it right? Amazon. So also like Amazon, actually I just heard from some other article that actually they are spending a lot of money to like back up the data itself, because they think that those data will be like damaged. So actually they are spending a lot of huge money to save and back up those data. So that's what RFID, but actually they are making layers of the data set. Oh, Google also, is it right? They're spending a lot of money here. So retailers, and also pharmacies, like those like drug industries, actually they also have a lot of information, data, and patents, which is intangible assets, and that is the most precious assets for themselves. And we just think that if these data is breached, is this will this cause a going concern to the company? So you heard the terminology going concerns, right? So let's say that Amazon lost part of their like data on customer information. Would it cause a going concern? And somehow, at some point, actually Facebook, actually they have survived with that Congress meeting there. Actually, I think that the congressman was not that educated about that stuff here. But actually, Facebook, if this congressman was more educated with that stuff, they will realize that how severe that problem was, is it right? So actually, these are really precious assets the company still. And also, this part relates to Dr. Vasarhelyi's comments before that, the point of time. So actually, there is no safe shelf or safe harbor for cybersecurity risk for the firm itself. So for the firm, actually, there is highly possible that they could have been breached before, but actually they did not detect that they were breached. So we call that detection gap. So actually the New York department, I cannot remember the department, but actually they say that if you have a breach and if you realize it, you have to report within 24 hours. Within 24 hours. Do you think that that is possible? Actually, most of the hackers, the reason that why they are hacking the system is to make a backdoor. And whenever they need, they just want to get into the backdoor. So the problem here is that they don't know they are breached. And actually, when you
who do you report to in 24 hours? Who do you report that to in 24 hours?
I cannot remember the exact department name, but actually it's one part of the New York State Department.
Okay, so it's the government?
Yeah, it's a government. So they actually issued that, made a regulation that you have to report within 24 hours. 24 hours. But actually that doesn't make sense. So if you have a backdoor, whatever you want, you can just get it there, is it right? And also when you read these financial statements, actually they mentioned that, oh, we had a breach before. We think that it was somewhere like 2017, like the fall. We know that they had a backdoor in there, but we don't know what they had deprived from the system. So they don't know what they got, and they don't know when they came, but they just know that they came in there. So there were some irregularities in the system itself. They know that, but actually they don't know what they have lost. So also they don't know when it happened. And actually, when you say that one person customer information is deprived from the system, lost from the system, how much will it cost for the company? Actually, it's very hard to measure. So when you say that one notebook, laptop is missed by an employee, is that a material instance to the company? Actually, it depends. It depends. So actually, we cannot price that damages, and we don't know the cost of it actually. And also, even one employee laptop is missed, the system could be in danger. Is it right? So we learn about those kind of private key or public key, those encryption part. Actually, those information could be in that laptop. So it's very hard to measure. It's hard to measure. Okay. So actually, it says that there is a higher possibilities for damages, which cause lower costs. But actually, this is not a really very accurate measure here. But actually, they just say that it is much more higher to have a smaller incidents, just like losing your laptop or losing your password or those things here. So a lot of people was asking, why AI CPA and CPA firms, are they eligible to audit IT? They just say that IT, but actually they are saying that, how could you assure cybersecurity risk? So actually, there is a reporting framework which was published by the AICPA in 2017, which is called Cybersecurity Reporting Framework. Actually, they made this reporting framework, and a lot of computer science, those people, they just ask, why are AICPA and CPA eligible to these kind of provide these assurance services? So is there any guesses for that?
Yep. Maybe because they are already providing assurance regarding the whole set of financial statements. So maybe they can assess the risks that are associated with the financial statements, probably.
So you're saying that actually cybersecurity risk is also one part of the risk factors.
Yeah.
So actually that is the duty of this auditors,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So that is one part here. Actually, the job, the duty of the auditors is that provide trust to the stakeholders. Trust, is it right? To provide a trust. And actually that is for assurance services. And also cybersecurity. Actually, so not just about the system itself, but also about the human security. And also the system is based on the internal control. Is it right? So there is some kind of visibility here. So this was not a new business to ASPA. As Dr. Vasarhelyi mentioned before, we had systrust, web trust, all of these things to provide trust to the stakeholders. So you can see here, it started from 1974, and now we have a reporting framework 2017 and SOC for cybersecurity. So we have it already here on starting point. So CPA actually, yeah, they can find the consequences of security breach. And also they can talk about the internal control of the system. So this is, I know that it's really small here. So what we did here is that I put all the information provided by the firms, like firm disclosures about cybersecurity. So from the financial statement, we extracted the sentences about cybersecurity. We extracted every sentence, every firms. So nearly like 15 years. So we extracted every those sentences here. And then after we made a map. So this map shows that this is similar words. It's kind of clustered talking about this kind of cybersecurity disclosure. Just think that it's the topics, okay? The topic keywords, and also a lot of keywords here. Actually, this part was talking about third-party software. So actually, a lot of companies, they don't like to use third-party software. So why is it? Because it costs you. It costs you. So actually, they develop their own. And actually, that is like a little lower quality. So actually, that could cause some kind of cybersecurity breach. Is it right? And also here, this part, they talk about currency. We don't know why, but actually, when they are talking about cybersecurity, they also talk about currency, and also they were talking about they are kind of like global company. So they have a lot of like different departments all over the world. And actually, this part was saying about distributed server. So actually, you can see here, this cluster is close. And when you see here, actually, if they are a global company, they will use a lot of servers in different locations. Is it right? And then, like, there will be higher possibilities to have security breach on those distributed servers. So actually, they were mentioning, we just got this idea from this map here, word map here. And then we can also realize that, yeah, cybersecurity is not just about the systems. So these kind of risk factors related to other risk factors. So when you just talk about cybersecurity, you would just think about the system. So you would just think that, oh, it's the antivirus implemented on the system. And also the server, is it secure? But not just that part. You can just also talk about the employee, and also you have to think about the business, the company still. So those computer science, they can make a great system. Even though you have a great system, which is very secure, even those secure systems could have a breach. Is it right? Because the human can make mistakes. They could just forgot to turn off their computer, and also they could just lost their password. And a lot of like stuff are related to this cybersecurity. So that is why the cybersecurity is so tricky. It's so tricky. So when you want to audit a system, it's really easy. You just go into the system. I heard that if you want the military departments, they take 2 years to check the software what they will use for 2 years and check that if there is any kind of like security breach possibilities on that code. So there's some companies that provide that services. That is why the military service doesn't use the most updated software. Sometimes they could use like mostly they use like a little bit outdated software because it takes time to assure that this software is secure. But actually, when we talk about cybersecurity as a whole, not the system, it's very hard. It's very tricky. So that is why we have to broaden our spectrum and look much more further and look much more at the risk factors. Okay. Let's just skip this part here. So here, this is CPA. Let's just say that this is like auditors, okay? And this is just the IT auditors or other like computer science background people who manage the system. Do you think that they are some kind of versus or have some kind of conflicts of interest here? Actually, it's not. Yeah. A lot of these people, they will like mostly focus on the system itself, but actually CPA, they can also provide about the internal control, and also they can also provide their information about like because they have the understanding of the business itself, so they can provide those kind of like how do you say that, intuitions or services for which is not provided by these kind of like people here. So actually, we have to work together. Is it right? So this is a brief summary about the standards here. So actually, at 2017, Cybersecurity Assurance Reporting Framework. This is the most biggest head for all of these reporting frameworks about cybersecurity. And also in 2018, we have SOC for cybersecurity. So if you want much more information about these kind of stuff here, I just want you to just search AICPA Cybersecurity Risk Resource Center. There's a link for it, and there you have a bunch of resources in there. You can also find it out, and also CSAP, IS Audit, Canadian, CPA. They have all of this information, and also EU provides a lot of information about these cybersecurity factors. And we have ISACA and also NIST, all of these standards. So if you have questions about these standards, you can just ask me or send an email. I just want to give you a brief history about the Cybersecurity Assurance Report. Actually, there's 3 parts which composes Cybersecurity Assurance Report. The first part is the management descriptions of the entity's cybersecurity risk management program, which the management describes. Okay, which the management describes it, and also management assertion, and also practitioner report. So because this is an assurance service, we just don't say that this is auditors. We call it practitioners who is expert in that domain itself. So it could be some IT people, and also it could be our auditor itself and CPA. I want to provide you a good example for that. Actually, the point was so small. So what they do is that our business has this business sectors, and based on this business sectors, we have this kind of cybersecurity risk factors. And also to mitigate these cybersecurity risk factors, we do this kind of works. So how many people had heard Mark Zuckerberg's Congress, period? Yeah. So when you hear that, he says that we do a lot of jobs to secure consumers' information, and we have a dedicated team who makes these kind of provides these kind of assurance services here, security services here. That is a kind of brief version about this management description. Okay, so our job is to provide this practitioner report here. Okay, but actually, so this is the part of the cybersecurity disclosures in 10K financial statement, which the company firms discloses annually. So actually part of it, we have much more information from the annual statements here. So there is not yet any kind of cybersecurity reports which is public available. So that's why we are using these item 1A risk factor, cybersecurity risk factor disclosures here, and we pick up these kind of cybersecurity risk disclosures here. So when you read this, can you know what is the risk factors in that firm? It's kind of very hard. It's very hard. In accounting, as we call that, obfuscating theory. So actually, they obfuscate a little bit. But actually, if I'm an expert, so if I know this business, and if I read this stuff, I can get some little intuition. Is it right? I can get a little intuition. But could be CPA firms, audit firms, but actually normal stakeholders, could they have that intuition? I guess no. Even though you own Apple stocks or Facebook stocks or Intel stocks, it's very hard to know that factors here. So actually our goal was to provide that information instead of you. So the best part is to have that know-how, to get the know-how. So to get that know-how, actually, as a stakeholder, you have to read all the these kind of risk disclosures and compare between within the industries and get the firm-specific risk factors. Then you can just get it how those risk factors are dedicated to this firm. It's very hard to get that know-how. Oh, so yeah. this part, I just want to introduce that. Yeah. So we use machines. Okay. Just skip that part here, but actually we use machine learning to know that stuff. Actually, we use more than 45,000 financial disclosures, and also the sentences is actually 1.8 million sentences. We use all of these sentences in the 10K for using every firms within 2005 to 2017. We use all of it. Actually, we are enlarging that stuff here, but actually we use a vast data, and we train the computer to learn about the cybersecurity risk factors. But before that, the problem was that we have to get a vision about how we have to know about the industry. Is it right? So actually, Facebook and Apple, are they similar industry?
No.
It's not. But actually, they both of them gather consumer information. Is it right?
Yes.
They have different SAC codes. So SAC is a traditional industry classification. But actually, in cybersecurity, in some point, Facebook and Apple and Google, they could be in a similar industry. So let's say that Google and Apple, both of them will gather, let's just say Fitbit and Apple. So if you have an Apple Watch and if you have a Fitbit, they both of them gather health data information. Is it right? So in some point, we try to use the SAC code, but actually contextually, Apple could change their industries. Not like dramatically, but actually in the terms of cybersecurity, somehow they could have like different industry classifications. And actually we also thought that it would be better to train the computer to read all the business description and then actually classify the industry for us. That is how a human works, is it right? So even though you don't know what is the SAC code of Apple, and let's just say that Facebook, you know that they are in different industry, is it right? But when you say that Apple, and let's just say that Microsoft, are they in the same industry? Yeah, and we know that. And we try to make the computer to make that, to know, read all the business descriptions, which is more than 45,000, and then learn to classify those industries. So we want to make the computer to work as human, okay? Let's skip this part here. So as you can see here, this part first. This is from Apple. So this is an advertisement from Apple. Yeah, iPad, it's just this small. But what they wanted to advertise is a lot medical industry use their iPad. And actually this was for Apple Watch. So it's like a little different here. And also when you can see this picture, actually every industry, they are all correlated. So when you say about Intel, so what does Intel do? Yeah, they make chips. Actually, they make chips. But actually, they bought a company which is for automated navigated car. And also, they bought a company, a drone company. And actually, they are trying to move their industry a little bit toward those kind of like automated driving and flying stuff. So, so that was like this, actually this year. So when you say about 2016 Intel, what would they do? They will be just like chip company. In 2017, when you read the financial statements, they would say a lot about like drone stuff and like car stuff. So actually, it has to be a dynamically adjusted for industry classification. Human knows, I know, because I read that news. Is it right? So we just wanted to make the system works at that part. So this is all to get the industry risk factors for the cybersecurity. Okay. So this is how we are trying to overcome the problems here, which Dr. Vasarhelyi just mentioned before. There's 3 problems here. So this is just one part of it. Okay. So this is what we use. We use 45,000 of these steps. And the sentences here is more than 1.8 million steps. Okay. So could you do that? You cannot do that. And people say that if you spend more than like 10,000 hours, you're gonna be expert. It's not that easy. Is it right? It's very hard to spend like 10,000 hours. To be honest, very that part. And when I went to the airport, Pearson Airport in Canada, Toronto, actually they had a pamphlet that says that advertisement, will AI replace auditors? I think that they are afraid. I think that they are kind of afraid. AI cannot replace auditors in some point. But actually, AI could be some kind of like a support aid system for the auditors. Is it right? So that is why we want to make the system bigger. So we made a brain as human. You cannot imagine this, right? So I will show you how the brain looks like for us. So actually, this is not our own brain. Well, we have more. We have our own brain, but actually that is much more sophisticated, much more data in there. So it's gonna blow up this computer. Actually, I also blow up computer tomorrow to the morning, one more. So I just want to show you a very brief version of it. So actually, this is not our own data points, but actually I can just show you how it works. So actually here, every nodes are words. And the lines between them are the connection between words. So does it look like a brain? It doesn't not look like a brain, but actually we can infer to this model and actually know about the relationship between the words itself. But actually I can show you Google. Let's go to Google here. When you see the white points here, what does it say there? Yeah. Yahoo, MSN, AOL, Netscape, browser, like Time Warner, Microsoft. Actually, this is a trained version. It takes only like, I guess, less than like 30 minutes to make this trained model. And actually, our model is much more, it takes much more time, like 5 to 6 hours, because it's much more sophisticated. And actually, to make a model, it's much more time for it. But as you can see here, does it work? It just works. I just put all these like words in the computer, make the model, and train it to learn the relationships between the firm. It knows that Google is related to Yahoo. Okay? Actually, this is kind of like outdated data, so that is there's a reason that why it doesn't have like Facebook or this stuff here. But actually, you can just see the intuitions behind this stuff here. So, do you have like little intuitions about what we are doing here? So actually, we are making a brain for ourselves here. So this is how we just make it. So now we have those industry classifications. Now we have to find out risk factors which causes cybersecurity breach. Okay. So here, the first thing we have done is that we just only use cybersecurity risk disclosures, which is talking about cybersecurity. But actually, when we were doing more stuff here, actually not only those stuff was related to cybersecurity. So we have a better results when you use the whole risk factors, not just about cybersecurity, using every factors here. So we put every risk factors, which is disclosures, disclosed by financial disclosures. So we extract all of those risk factors from item 10K financial statement, and did the same thing with different algorithms. I can just skip the algorithm here. We train the model to learn risk factors, and to find out risk factors here. But actually, it was really hard. So when you want to say text, like text data, how could you put the text data into a computer to compute or calculate something? It's really hard, is it right? So what we do is that we semantically visualize it as an image, a sentence here. So when you see here, CERT is a just think of a team that which is like response to those kind of cybersecurity risk factors or risk security problems here. So here our CERT has been fighting with those hackers. So when you see here, all day and night. Day and night. They have similar meanings. Is it right? We train the computer to learn those semantic meanings. So when you see here day and night, they will have like similar colors here. So we made the image within the textual data, and actually each sentence will look like this as an image. So it's kind of like image. So when we use image, it is really, really easier and faster, and we can rely to do these kind of machine learning stuff. So I think that most of you guys use image recognition like applications in your cell phones, right? So when you place your cell phone on a flower, your cell phone tells you that what flower is that. Is it right? Or even though like if you have a good, like something like let's just say that like a chair, and when you just like put your camera and take a picture, actually Google tells you where can you buy the same thing. Is it right?
Have you done that already? I haven't done it. Have you?
iPhone also has a Google Lens or a Samsung Bixby.
Google Lens?
Yeah, Google Lens. Yeah. Google Lens. So even though like if you have a let's just say that if you have paper and when you use Google Lens to take a picture and ask Google Lens, give me all the like words in that picture, it gives you all the words. If there's a telephone number, actually it asks you to say that number. So image recognition is really powerful, really powerful. Actually, for machine learning stuff, we can use it. It's totally capable when the accuracy is higher than 95%. 95%. But actually, image recognition is much more higher than 95%. It's like 96 or 7% these days. And actually, Google make a code, not a code, has a algorithm that can generate code for you. So you don't need to code those stuff. It is called like AutoML. They make a machine learning code for you, even though you can't use if you don't like, even if you don't code it. So these image recognition stuff is really powerful these days. That is why we change textual data into an image data here. And actually, this image data contains all the semantic meanings of the sentences. And actually, this is much more efficient than using like traditional, like we call it text mining stuff. Okay, so we use these kind of technologies here, and actually based on that, we pick up the topics, respective topics, and we can get the possibilities. Actually, we call it possibilities, likelihood, those stuff, but actually it means that how much more did the disclosure have talked before about these stuff. When we use social network data, it could be a possibilities, but actually we are using the disclosures which the firm itself said about that. So we cannot say that possibilities, but we can say that they disclose this amount about these topics here, okay? So we can have the numbers, 55%, 65%, 30% higher than the industry, higher than their industry, in the same industry. So actually we can get a numeric value because we use image recognition technologies. So when you use like image recognition apps, sometimes it says that 95% flower, 5% something else. And also like this is 60% something, 40% something. Actually they have a lot of like these stuffs here. I'm gonna skip off the technologies here. So based on those risk factors and these numeric measures, we train the computer, the machine, to learn that how does cybersecurity breach company, the pattern of cybersecurity breach companies. So cybersecurity breach companies will have like 75% about these stuff, 25% of these stuff, like these stuff. We just make the computer to learn that stuff. And then actually, the computer generates. Based on the pattern, the computer tells you that, like, if you put one firm in that model, it tells you that it is like 65% about 65% breach company possibilities. So actually, we can know how much like possibilities it belongs to cybersecurity breach companies. So we are making a computer to think like this human here. And as you can see here, actually, I erased the company name here. Actually, this is the company that you use most often. It's called, started with G something. We only use like 30 marks here. When you see here, this is the pattern of breach companies, cybersecurity breach companies. And this is the pattern of non-security bridge, non-bridge companies. But actually, we call it non-bridge company, but actually they could also be bridge before. So we use like special algorithm here. I'm just gonna skip that part. Just like assume that this is non-bridge company and this is bridge company. When you see that G company, is that a risky company? Yeah, because like when you see this panel here, when this mark goes near to this higher panel, it means that it'll have higher possibilities to belong to these bridge companies. Actually, when you see here, these risk factors belong to the higher panel. So actually, this tells you that this image just graph shows you that G company is a little bit not a little bit, like a lot like risky for cybersecurity. So we cannot highly assure, but actually we can provide this kind of like support A system to the auditors or the stakeholders, because you don't need to read every 10K, and you don't need to know how it's right. So you just, even though you don't have the knowledge here, when you see here, you can know that, oh, Google, based on these risk factors, they belong to, they could have cybersecurity bridge in the future. Okay? So I'm gonna show you also a demo about these steps here. It's gonna be the last part of it. So this is our initial version about the prototype itself. Actually, I use financial industries, the small part of it, because if I increase the data size, I have to pay more than like $50 per month. So I just use a smaller data size here. So I just only need to pay $5 per month. So here it says that select industry. Actually, this is the whole company that we use, the smaller data set. Okay. So when you see here, let's just go to investment, mortgage, asset, interest, security. So the computer generated that topic, that keywords. I did nothing here. So the computer just told me that the topics, this cluster topic is this part here, on the top here, investment, mortgage, asset, interest, security. Actually, this was 100 dimensions, but I reduced to 3 dimensions, so that is why it does not look like really cluster, but actually it's a cluster. When you look at 100 dimension, I never saw 100 dimension before, but actually it comes from 100 dimension. So when you see this orange part here, actually this is a cluster of all the companies here, and it shows you the company names here, all the company names. It could be a little bit messy. It could be like a little bit different from traditional industry classification, because it is just saying that contextually they belong together. So it could be a little bit messy here, but actually you can just see the industry classification here. And based on this industry classification, it tells you the risk factors related to this industries. So it says that like federal compliance, real estate collateral, credit loss, because this is a mortgage company. Is it right? And actually, this does not update to other stuff because it's a small data set. I just made it to work really fast. So you can just get the idea here. It makes the topics, risk factor topics. So we do nothing here. The computer generates all of these stuffs here. And based on this stuffs, let's just like collect like credit loss, one firm here. It takes a little time to get the results. Just give a moment. So this is a disclosure, and then after it gives me 2.34%. So for credit loss for this firm, compared to the industry, this firm has 2.34% higher risk factors. So we can get the numeric value here, and yeah, this is the location of that firm based on the same industry here, and actually it gives a box plot. So here it's like 0, 0 because this is a smaller data set. So there could be like 0, 0 here. Actually, if you choose other like industries, they got the numbers here, all the numbers here. I can just show you other stuff here. Just give me a moment. Yeah, so change is a little bit. You have to choose the right industry here. So basically, I did not make the last part of this which is predicting cybersecurity assurance because the lack of the memory here. So I do not want to pay like $50 like per month for this stuff. So the so here the conclusion about our studies here is actually that basically we wanted to overcome the problems about like how can we predict cybersecurity. So our conclusion actually was that you have to think about a bunch of other risk factors as a set, not just thinking about the system or human resources. So you will have like a bunch of set of like, risk factors. You have more than like 100 risk factors or 500 risk factors. So you have to consider all those risk factors and get the information from that, and then you can predict the cybersecurity. So it's very hard. It's very hard to predict cybersecurity. So I just told you that one employee can do something, or if you have like global departments, that could also cause cybersecurity breach in the future. So it's not just only about like one or two risk factors. Also, you have to consider what the industry requires. It's very, very sophisticated. And actually, the ICPA is just asking for that management description and assertion. And based on that, those stuff, the auditors will go into that like system place or into that working place, and then test for the control, test of control with those stuff. But basically, if they have these kind of like a support A system, decision A system, they will know that where I should have to go and what should I have to go much more investigate deeper. So actually, this is what we do generally. Actually, this is what I want to do generally. So like I want to like provide these kind of like decision aid systems or support system for the auditors, so they can make much more better decisions. So I just told you that these kind of machine learning stuffs and AI stuffs, it could not replace the whole like auditors, but actually in some point it could help and aid those kind of auditors using these systems. It's like Excel. Like Excel, like 40 years ago, like 30 years ago. Was it Excel before 30 years ago? Okay. 20 years ago? Yeah. 20 years ago, Excel could be a very, very like convenient tools. And actually at that point, it could be just like initial beta version. But now Excel is a perfect like software for making numeric measures here. Also, what we do is the same. Like now we just provide the initial version of it. But actually after 20 years, 30 years later, people can use these stuffs and make much more better information. So can I have like time for 5 minutes video?
2 minutes.
2 minutes video, yeah. I can show you that like how can they use this kind of system.
Lucy, how's it going?
Hi, Hitesh. I've raised the issue that KPMG Clara identified overnight with the Lacuna CEO, Charles Callan. He agreed something's not right and we need to investigate.
Oh, does he think there's a risk?
He's certainly concerned. He feels like sales growth in New Zealand may not be sustainable.
Okay, well, I'll look into it and then I'll get Clara on with it as well.
Okay, great. Sounds good. I'm heading into the office now, so I'll catch up with you when I'm in.
Okay, I'll see you later.
Hello, Hitesh. How are you today?
It's about to get very busy, Clara. Okay, so we need to do an analysis on the risk you flagged overnight on Lacuna's New Zealand subsidiary. So can we pull all of this data together, please, so that I can assess and make a file note? Okay, so let's start with financial and employee data, brand and market metrics.
Then benchmark against the wider group's data?
Oh yes, and peer companies. Clara, can we just expand on these figures here, please? So this seems to suggest that there's a fraud underway, and that they're misrepresenting sales in New Zealand. I think we need to brief this here.
I'll set up a meeting with Charles and Lucy.
So, as you can see, sales have grown 20% in a stable market, customer dissatisfaction is a growing social media trend, and people attrition is up 40%, particularly in finance and customer support.
Yeah, it doesn't look good. I'll need to notify the board. But please go ahead and organise a deeper dive as part of the ongoing audit.
Will do. We need to assess the situation on the ground. I'm going to send in our fleet of drones to review activity, and Charles, I'll need to conduct interviews with key executives.
I'll arrange that now. And thank you.
Okay, so I'll get on to those interviews. And Clara, once they're done, can you review the data and drone footage overnight?
Of course.
Hitesh, can you reach out to Laura Schmidt, our fraud specialist, and get her to help identifying the extent of the fraud and who else may be involved? And Clara, can you review all communications, emails, instant messages, any relevant documentation, and pass it on to Laura as soon as it's done?
Uploading data now.
Let's catch up in the morning, once Clara's processed the information.
Okay, no problem. See you then.
Yeah, so this is like 2023.
Great.
2023. So it's only like 5 years later.
So guys, any questions for him? Actually, I want to make a comment, just to summarize what he said. What he basically did is he picked up the company's financial statement, published an case, pick up a little piece of it called the 1A. And the 1A is a requirement that exists, that the company states their risks. And then he basically did semantic analysis on that. And even if the 1A are not representative, the way he did the semantic analysis gives you a lot of indication of what can be done. Now, what's my problem with the semantic analysis is that the 1A and the whole wordage on the financial statements are done by the company, the public relation guys, the lawyers, and you know, on cybersecurity, if the company knew that they were very insecure, they would be doing something about it, you hope, correct?
Yes.
So it only kind of declares what they perceive very much washed by public relation and lawyers. Now, that said, the semantic analysis, multidimensional semantic analysis, is a very important tool that can be used in contracts. Ian Zelkai is doing that type of research, can be used in all kind of things. And this dynamic visualization, comparing visualization in this case, the semantic space, is quite interesting. The first time he showed this to me, I had no idea what he was talking about. Today I continue not having any idea, but I have a little bit more of an idea. But it is kind of an interesting thing. Now, the last tape, I had seen it before. I think KPMG has a lot of courage putting that out. Because if you compare what is there and what they have today, or Clara, the way they have it today, you go, so they are very courageous. I think it's because KPMG, Deloitte, etc., are these very diverse companies, and they have this consulting arm that does a little bit more advanced things, and then they have the old-fashioned audit under the audit rules. The other comment that I would like to make about what he said is something we have been working on, is in this idea of a company with many lines of business. And what I say, consolidation is obfuscation. Because the moment you add different product information, different line of business information together, you basically are ruining the information. We are doing a project for one of the big four, and the project basically is looking at financial ratios, but not the traditional financial ratio, is breaking industry separate and trying to deal with the fact that these things have been mushed together and dominating. And the results are better. Where we can do separate sectors, or what they call pure play companies, the ratios are much more predictive and you can identify fraud much better. And so there is a lot of work to be done on this, but I think if I were going to decide the rules of the universe or the United States, I would first forbid consolidation. Second, create a much wider annual report statements. This whole idea of basically synchronizing income with balance sheets and etc. It's really kind of an obsolete idea. There are many variables, many dimensions, and we need to disclose these much better. And the reason why these things is not being done is because managers don't want to disclose information. Would you? Your bonuses are tied to that. You cannot control that information. Now today with financial information, you have a certain ability to manage those numbers. They call income management or whatever, because the standards are principle-based, allow you to do all kind of interpretations. And you don't want that. What you want to do as a manager is to control your results and show them the way you get the best bonuses. Isn't that correct? And people are kind of oriented towards the pockets. But I think we are in the route to things like sustainability reports, integrated reporting, etc., being an integral part of the horizon. For you guys, the best thing would be if many of these need to be audited, because then will be not SOC 1, 2, 3, and 4, or 10, but would be this whole audit of sustainability reports, auditing ecological issues, auditing energy utilization issues, auditing material usage, auditing all these things. A lot of products for you to offer, even if there is a big level of automation at the basic audit, there is plenty to be done there. And there is already movement, sustainability reporting, or the SASB, the Sustainability Auditing Standards Board, Accounting Standards Board, is getting bigger because people realize that this financial statement is a limited product and is an old product, meaning balance sheets and income statement have a lot of interpretations by the FASB, but the way they are being done is the same way they have been done 100 years ago. And don't tell a very good story. I mean, there are companies that are profitable until bankruptcy, meaning profitable and showing your annual report that is positive and go bankrupt. Now, all companies are profitable until bankruptcy, but there is no indications there and etc. So this needs to be changed. And our ability to do analysis on, let's say, cybersecurity is very limited. And the other question that Aaron didn't quite ask is, he asked it a little bit in the beginning, is, are accountants the people to issue cybersecurity reports? And what's the answer to that? At least one answer is clear. You hope it is because it will be more money in your pockets. Okay? But, if you are a company, would you go to an accountant to evaluate your cybersecurity?
No.
Why not?
It'd be better to go to an IT expert, someone who knows cybersecurity better.
Yeah, you want to go to someone that knows what he's doing, correct?
Yeah.
And what do you think accountants do? Accountants do
Prepare financial
journal entries, balance sheets. Is that true?
Yes.
Well, they are doing much more than that today, but that's really the issue here. And it's, I said this at the beginning of the course, after this last 2 days meeting, I'm much more convinced there is an earthquake going on with the accounting firms. And the large firms are really expanding the whole area of consulting, and trying to improve a little bit the audit. The small firms are in terror because they don't have the scale that the big ones have, and they have to figure out something to do. And there is this phenomenon of it, that there will be this phenomenon of shrinkage from, remember I showed you last time, I went like this, oh sorry again for the, to something like this. But what I'm hearing is more like this. Lot of jobs in the middle, basically the same number of jobs on the top, and few jobs in the bottom. That's what they are talking about. And these guys here are going to be the techies, not necessarily the accountants. And they are all saying they are hiring in the data sciences and etc. Don't look so sad. This is not immediate, so immediate. I think there are plenty of jobs this year. Okay, don't look so sad. Yeah, we haven't received a major decrease in demand yet. Okay, but they all say we are hiring a lot of data scientists. If they are hiring a lot of data scientists, what they are not hiring? Accounting students. So obviously I feel tears in my eyes when I see this, but this is happening. And meaning the difficulties are having to reset our curriculum even is not funny. Meaning PA is fine. PA gets much more of the analytics and the cybersecurity and etc. than any other of the programs in accounting. But I propose 3 certificates: cybersecurity, IT audit, and forensic, and they all got shut down. Okay, I managed to introduce an audit analytics in New Brunswick, and we'll get there in Europe for the undergraduates. But other things like we haven't managed to start. It's because this is very structured, very difficult to change. But don't look too sad, because at this moment there'll be jobs for next year.
Actually, I did research regarding the blockchain. Even the PwC, they have a job opening for the senior blockchain manager, but they requires IT. They have all the computer language.
It's degrees like CIA, CISA, etc. It used to be you must have a CPA. Now they say you must have a CPA or equivalent, and all these things are equivalents. And when about 5 years ago we surveyed top continuous auditing organizations, we found all this demand for CPA equivalents. So that's kind of what's happening in this domain. And if at the end of this course, one thing stayed with you is you have to continue updating yourself. Okay, and you have to. It can't be just like browse the web in anything. Girl in bikini, accounting, etc. Can't be that way. It has to be a more educated way to keep yourself updated. And also, you don't need to be a deep. You don't need to be like him. Can do real good techie stuff. You have to understand what can be done, and go and hire if you need. But you need to understand if you have it done, or other people are going to eat your sandwich. So it's something that you need to think. And you're going to now in this 4 semesters mission of learning intermediate, introductory, advanced, and etc. Very narrow domain, very techy type of things, which memorization only serves for the CPA exam. After that, we had the CPA exam guys over there in this conference, and they took a lot of flack. Because they basically, the way they design the CPA exam is they survey the firms, what the staff does the first 2 years, and guide the exam into that. And the firms were saying, this is not what we are going to need, this is not the future. And they were defending, saying, oh, we are putting a simulation in there where you reason as opposed to remember. But you're still going to have to live with this exam. It's 40% simulation, 60% the other stuff.